But transitions are inevitable.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Runway to Success. As always, brought to you by Maverick, one of the leading aviation and aerospace recruitment firms. And with me, as always, is my bright and talented co-host, Mikaela Rivera. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm feeling a little drag. Is that the right term? Just from
Really?
flying earlier today. I had,
And
last week, if you guys were listening, watching this episode, Trey landed, I think he said 10 times, maybe it was 13, if I'm
13,
remembering
yeah.
correctly. So between yesterday and today, I've landed 7 times, getting real good at touch and goes. So, it's like mentally exhausting because you're juggling so much. So, but exciting at the same time and exhausting.
So I asked you a question earlier today, and I think this can be like attributed to business and careers as well. I asked you a really serious question, and that question was, "Are you having fun?" I was kind of shocked to hear your response, and what makes me think about like careers and employees, business, all of the above. Sometimes it's not always fun, right? And I think maybe are you in kind of one of those phases right now where you're not feeling that it's as much fun as you thought it would be?
You're right that both in business and in the pursuit of a hobby, there's going to be phases, periods, sections of learning where you don't feel like it's as fun as you thought it would be. I think I'm just in the space of this is such a new adventure flying for me. This is something you've always wanted to do, but this pursuit of my private pilot license is, I mean, we're talking weeks in the making. And I'm living in the space where I'm up against this, just working to overcome a lot of mental obstacles, right, that we create for ourselves. So some mental obstacles that I have in particular with the flying is heights. I have an issue with heights, and you're up there in a little plane. And so then the risk tolerance that I have around all the landings and working the pattern and the touch and goes and all of that. So yeah, I think right now I'm really working to push through this first big barrier of finding confidence that I can capably land the plane multiple times over and over and over. And when I break through that barrier, the fun that I was having in the beginning when we were doing the S turns and the turns around the points, and I don't know if we'd call it fun with the power on stall, power off stall, but it was exhilarating maybe in a way. So yeah, right now, today, I'm just working to break through this obstacle of nailing the landings consistently, where you broke through that last week. So where are you? Are you having fun?
Yeah, I mean, I'm having. I think any time that it's sunny and you're up in the sky and you're learning, like I'm a big learner. That's, if you've taken strength finders before, learner is definitely in my top strengths, and it's something I'm always aspiring to do more of. So I am having a ton of fun. I mean, I'm kind of in the phase right now where I know I need to do some additional studying. I know I need to do some additional homework outside of the plane to make sure that I feel more confident and capable given any circumstance, right? But I think at this stage of the journey, where I am in a comparison, I think this is kind of the gap in the gain. If you're really familiar with that terminology, I think. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on There's an actual book on it right now, and it's Dan Sullivan. Is the author, strategic coach, but he talks a lot about the gap in the gain. And oftentimes we're looking at where we want to go versus how far we've come. And so I'm taking the approach this weekend of looking back at where I was when we first started this flight training, where I legit did not think I was going to make it. And even though it was something I wanted to do my entire life, just the sheer overwhelm and the constant making mistakes. And I think that's something as adults, like we don't give ourselves enough leeway or enough grace at times when we make errors and we make mistakes. And so yeah, I am having fun, but I know that there's going to be another phase to this, right? Because I plan on going to get my instrument rating too after I earn my license. So I've heard enough stories from other pilots about what's to come, and I've seen enough memes on Instagram or whatever it might be. So, but you said something a moment ago As we're talking about fun, right? You're kind of in this phase, you're in this stage, and it reminded me of like the EOS, so Entrepreneurial Operating System, the book Traction by Gino. It's actually over my shoulder here, Gino Wickman. He when it comes to business, there are different seasons in business, right? And sometimes the season that you're in isn't always the most fun season. And as anyone who's been through EOS, one of the most critical pieces to kind of the EOS system is getting the right people in the right seats, right? And when we really think about business and success, it's you can go fast alone, but you go further together, right? And that's something that we've been working on EOS from last November, and we're going to be vulnerable because I think it's really critical to tell the truth about what takes place. One of the big things that we realized after we set our 3 and our 10-year visions as a company is we realized, like, hey, we may not have the right people in the right seats. And we may not have the right people, period, right? As you start doing like a people analyzer of seeing, okay, where's everyone's strengths, what's needed to achieve those next goals, whether it's your 1 or 3 or 10 year. And as we were doing our people analyzer, we realized, like, hey, wow, like a lot of change is likely going to have to occur. And that's kind of like a first phase, right? Any leader in any type of company, whether you're a team of 5 or a team of 500, you're analyzing your team, you're analyzing the business constantly. And as we were doing this, we realized, like, hey, okay, there may be some change ahead, right? And so we entered 2025 and we started seeing that change, and a lot of that change was absolutely welcome. It was important to go through a new season of team. But recently we lost somebody who, we weren't expecting to lose. And it kind of shocked us. And I think today that's what Mikaela and I are going to talk about is how do you manage through that process when you lose a team member whom you're talking to, you're doing monthly reviews, you're traveling together, you're having honest conversations, at least, what you feel are transparent conversations, over a beer, over dinner. You're diving deep into kind of more about the psyche and what drives the individuals, right? You're trying to build relationships and asking about their personal lives and really trying to get to know people. And, sometimes, there are just people who don't want that, right, Mikaela? Like there's some people that, whether you're, again, a team of 100, and this is like in large corporations where you might have, thousands of employees, even within your department, right? You might have a director and a few direct reports, those sort of things. And no matter what you do, you might try to get to know someone, and they're just, no matter what, you can't break that shell. And so I think that's been kind of like, as I look back and I kind of do this autopsy over the last, we'll call it 72 hours of what's taken place. That's kind of the conundrum that I'm trying, the Rubik's Cube that I'm trying to solve right here. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think the reality is that, it's probably been 72 hours of trying to unpack this new revelation, this new information that we've been provided. So in our other division, this EOS implementation has really been, I would say, eye-opening. Trey and I both have backgrounds working in Fortune 500 companies, some of the best companies, always in top places to work in the US. So we brought a lot of those learnings forward into the business. But you don't know what you don't know when you're building your own business. And I know every leader experiences that when they're building a new team, or maybe they get transitioned into a new division within their corporation. It's like, okay, you're learning the people, you're learning the social norms, you're learning the expectations and the business strategy and the targets that you're expected to get. And so there's a lot going on. It's no different in your own business. It's just, it feels heavier. I think that's the word that I would use for this, is it feels heavier because there's less people around, where some of the teams that we were leading were much larger in our past lives. And you sort of can somewhat disassociate to a small degree because it's not you backing everything. And so the individual who told us this week that they were leaving, it's so frustrating because we have been planting seeds watering the seed, working really hard to coach and guide this individual over the last few years. And this is the first year that they were really showing everything that we saw their capability being. This year is when they started to kind of step into that professionally. And so you're really excited by that. You're having candid conversations about what they're looking for and their goals and what's next. And then it just feels like out of left field, you get that information that they're going to be leaving. And so now you step back and you start analyzing, what signs did we miss? What extreme ownership, like what did we do that we could have done differently or better to contribute to this individual continuing to see themselves here? And change is inevitable, no matter what business you're in, your family dynamics, like change is inevitable. Something is going to happen. And for this individual, where they're going, I won't speak for you, but I think I can say we're so happy for the field that they're going to be getting into, because that passion has been with them from before they ever joined our team. It's something deeply personal to them. And so I can't wait to see how their journey unfolds there. But personally, right now, it's like, dang, this kind of sucks. Like, what we were told and what happened are two different things. So how do you navigate that, right?
Yeah. I think it's that's the tough part, right? Like as a leader, if you're having those, again, you can only speak. There's, I think you shared there are three sides to every story, right?
Yeah.
So you can only speak to one side of the story, right? But as a leader or business owner, as you're having conversations with your direct reports and you're talking about, okay, what are your 1 year, your 3 year, 10-year goals, right? You can only go based off of what somebody shares with you, and you structure things around to ensure there's alignment with both the company as well as the individual. And, I think there's some times where, like, for sure, as I look back, there were some misalignments. There's no question about it. And as I look forward into the future, there were still some misalignments, but I felt like there were enough pieces in place, right, that would have kept things at least moving forward in a positive direction, at least for as we look for our company from a selfish standpoint, right? But I think you hit the nail on the head a second ago with, on an individual level, like, I couldn't be more excited for this future for this person of what they're getting to choose to do, because they're going after something that is really a personal passion that they've been very involved with even before, since they started, working on our team. And so part of, today's conversation is like, okay, how do you manage when they're a critical team member? And again, it doesn't matter what size of company you are, a critical team member shocks you, right? Well, for the first thing that you have to do is you have to take extreme ownership. Okay, clearly there's something that wasn't here in this organization that offered or provided to this individual or any individual, right, a future that they were still inspired by, they were still motivated by. And the tough part too is you may never get the answer. You can ask the question, you can have that conversation, you can sit down over a cup of coffee, and you may never actually know. And that's always tough for any high performer. You always want to solve, like I'm a problem solver. So not being able to solve a problem, it's always just like, ugh. So you may not know, but then the other piece too is like, okay, again, there's three sides. What did you do well? Right? If you could do it all over again, would you do the same things? And as I look back, there are some things I might change. I say might, for sure. There's a lot of areas that I wouldn't have done anything different, right? Because at the end of the day, we talked about businesses are like seasons, like when we first started chatting about flight, like you're going through a season of maybe a little building confidence, right? Not so much fun. In business, it's the exact same way, where you have team members for a season of life, right? We've seen, whether it's, new grads who come out and it's their first job and they're guns blazing, gung ho. And then, 12, 18 months later, they figure out like, hey, you know what? I want to try something else. Grass is greener. Or it's just, hey, this wasn't what I want to do with my career. Happens across companies worldwide every year, right? But then as you start seeing more professionals getting into their role, getting into their groove, and you mentioned, this individual specifically had kind of finally found their stride after 2 years, really had a pipeline and a legit roadmap to achieving some financial goals and some professional goals right around the corner. But the tough part is that in this world, sometimes it's like what's happening right now, and it's as a leader, we have to be able to continuously like create that clear vision for that 12 months, for that 3 years, for that 10 years, and how each individual plays a role in that vision. What do you think about that, Mikaela?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there from what you just shared. I think, for people listening today, if you own your own business, you have 100% experienced where it started out as you, and then you bring in your first employee, and then your second. Next thing you know, you may have 10, 15, 30, just depending on your own individual goals with that business. And if you haven't yet, you will 100% experience where someone leaves that was unexpected for you. And so I think just to sort of, how do we summarize what these key learnings are? The first is assessing, like, did you paint a clear enough vision for what the future is? Were you clear on the expectations? And if you were you consistent in the expectations of that position? And then did you have those candid conversations, or attempt to have those candid conversations, creating a space where you allowed or encouraged, I don't know what the right word is, the individual, the employees, to share what's important to them. What are their personal goals? For their family, where are they hoping to go? What are they hoping to achieve? And for their profession, what are they hoping to achieve? And then determining whether or not you have that ability to help them achieve that here. And for us with this individual, we definitely felt like we had that ability to achieve that there based on what they had shared. Things change. That's just inevitable, like we've said already. So from a leadership perspective, I think, we're sitting in, this past week kind of sucked, if we're just being honest. And for me, flying, I think the stress of what's happening in that other division, coupled with the stress of wanting to be able to not only take off successfully, but land the plane successfully, has just felt really heavy. And so what's great is the ability to analyze, to do an autopsy, and to move forward. And I think we've gotten a lot of really great key learnings from this individual, but also just as we stepped back and looked at the big picture through EOS too, because we had that deep dive meeting this past week. So what are some of your key learnings from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, going to the people analyzer, we'd already identified, and I think this is really critical for any company who hasn't had an opportunity to really do a critical analysis of their team. We're not getting any type of kickbacks or any type of payment for recommending it. We're just talking through the success we've had utilizing EOS. And the people analyzer was such an eye opener for our leadership team as we started going through everyone and going, holy cow, where we want to go, we've got to make some changes. And hopefully these individuals can rise up. Some people we had to help find something else. And some people chose like this individual here, chose to get off the bus. And I think that happens with every company as you're going through different stages. I mean, we talked about Patty McCord's book, I think in one of our previous episodes, where, the people that you have on your team when you're a team of 15, they may not be the same people that you have on your team when you're a team of 200, right? Because the responsibilities, the expectations, everything rises because there's more to be done. And so as I think back, some of the critical learnings that I have is continuously have developmental conversations. And even if there's an individual who doesn't directly report to you, it's important as a leader that you check in, right? That can be a 5-minute informal check-in. It can be a periodic confirmed meeting on calendars, 15 minutes where you're diving in. Hey, let's talk through how are things going. It's finding ways to break down barriers, right? And I think, again, sometimes certain individuals don't want to share. They're very private and very personal. And I think it's really important to understand as leaders and business owners is that sometimes, like, it's not you, right? And that's okay. There's sometimes it is, right? Sometimes you got to just look in the mirror and say, hey, I messed that one up. But sometimes it's like, you know what? You can run every analysis and ultimately it's not you. And that's totally okay, right? It doesn't make it any easier. I mean, you talked about feeling the weight. Some of the things that, like, for me, flying removes that weight. And I think that's something that's critically important for you, Mikaela, and even our listeners out there. It's like, we carry different stressors at different seasons in our careers and in our companies. And you've got to find something that helps relieve the pressure, right? Because then if you keep bottling up that pressure, you're not good for yourself, you're not good for your team, and ultimately not good for the company. And so for me right now, that's flying. It's hitting the gym, 4 days a week, running when I was able to, still recovering a little bit from that leg injury. But for you, like, what are some of the things that you're going to do to ensure that you don't blow a gasket, right? That you are able to release some of that weight you're feeling?
Yeah. I think for me, working out is extremely important to me for my mental health, has been for a long time. I'd be a stress ball if I didn't do that. So continuing to work out, we have 2 dogs. Walking with the boys actually makes me super happy. And running, I'm not, I'm not a runner by trade. I don't think anybody would put me on a track team, but I am enjoying it. I think it's just being outside, honestly, is fun for me. And I do enjoy the mental challenge of flying, but it's the fear of heights coupled with the just huge learning curve that I'm working through. The fun will be back. I know I was making my instructor laugh with some of the things coming out of my mouth as I'm navigating the flares and all of that. But yeah, I agree that when you're going through seasons, we have so many mentors who have talked to us about this, and mentors can be people who know you're their mentor. Mentors can be people whom you've never met, but you watch their trainings regularly, etc., who talk about the seasons, and talk about sometimes it just feels really lonely in the positions that you're in, and sometimes it feels really heavy in the positions that you're in, and you have to find outlets, whatever those outlets are. And the other thing that I've been reminding myself of, and I think is really important, so if you are an individual looking to join a new team, or if you are a leader of a team or a business owner somewhere, you can only control what you can control. And if I'm an individual and I'm actively choosing to not be honest in my conversations and forthcoming, or to not bring my own sense of clarity to what's important to me, the people around you can only make decisions based on what they know. And so that control, what you can control is as a business owner or a manager, if you had no clue about something, then you can't put the weight on yourself that you should have been a psychic and figured that out, right? Like that's not a capability that we have. So you make decisions for your business, you make decisions for your team to hit the targets that you're expecting based on the information that you have at hand and the trends that you've been able to identify for what you should expect moving forward. And as an individual contributor that's a part of a team, or that might be looking for a new organization, I think it's really important to be your authentic self. That is all that any leader really wants, is for the people on their team to be their authentic selves and to have the opportunity to be challenged in a positive way to grow within their role and be aligned with what their goals ultimately are. And if you aren't clear on what you're looking for in your position or in your personal life or in your professional life, well, it's going to make it really challenging for the people around you to help you. But whether that's helping you dive deeper to subject matter expertise in your position, or to move laterally, to stretch you into another area within a business, to move vertically and take on that, maybe supervising and leading a team for the first time. If you don't know what excites you next in your position, or if you are unwilling to share what you're striving for personally as an individual or with your family, it's going to make it hard for the people around you to support you. So my advice would be, you don't have to share everything, but bring clarity to the conversations that you have with the people that manage you or that you report to ensure that you're both making the best decisions at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing else that to add to that really excites me too is, like, as we continuously will speak for this division that we have here outside of Maverick, is that we continuously have, even within Maverick, right, different employees, but we continuously have developmental conversations. And through those developmental conversations with each team member, our team members are able to express what their goals are. And so when I think about, hey, right now it's kind of okay, it's the shock and awe of when you lose a critical team member. But there's also opportunity for other team members who have been voicing, hey, I want to take on more. Hey, I want to achieve this promotion. Hey, I want to do what that person does someday. What an incredible opportunity for those individuals now to step up and have that opportunity, right? Because sometimes, the greatest thing that can happen for an organization is for someone to step out, because that other person that's been just kind of waiting and being patient, they step up to the plate and they may just knock it out of the park. And so that's what I'm looking forward for our team here is we've got a handful of individuals who have all expressed interest in taking on more, jumping into this type of role that this individual was in. And so now there's that opportunity for these people to do so. And so I'm really excited for them and what they can bring to the table, because anytime you have somebody new entering a new role, they have new ideas, right? And they see how things were done. They're like, what if we did things this way instead? And so it can be a really critical juncture too for every company that's out there, is making sure that you have a bench, right? Making sure that you have talent that you're developing, that when that opportunity comes, it's not, oh my gosh, we've got to ramp them up for another 90, another 180, another 365 days. It's like, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and let's dive into this together. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think training a replacement is a really great mentality to have. And as you move up in an organization, or if you're a business owner, you're kind of thinking about, how do I work myself out of a job? That's another way to think about it. So who can you bring in to create some opportunity to spread some of the tasks that you're doing? Or maybe who's in your organization now that has been, slowly raising their hand, asking for the chance to expand their capabilities. And it is really fun to have that opportunity to coach and to develop individuals and give them the opportunity to spread their wings. So I think training a replacement or working yourself out of a position, however you want to frame that, is an exciting place to be. And it's an exciting opportunity to be able to give to individuals, is that they can grow within their function, their vertical, if they're really interested in it.
So, to kind of wrap things up for this episode, if you were to give one piece of advice to a leader right now that might be experiencing some transition on their team, or a business owner that may be, wondering, am I going to lose this person? I've kind of been hearing some things. My gut tells me, my intuition is saying, this person may not be here too long. Any advice that you'd give them, any parting advice before next episode?
I think I'll share what my grandma shared with me. This too shall pass. That always comes to mind, right? When you're in any season, any pressure cooker. But transitions are inevitable. And I think that when it happens, the faster you can analyze what you contributed to that circumstance, like where you went wrong, where you went right, I think that's really important. And what you want to do differently, and then just move forward. The faster you can do that, the better you'll be.
Couldn't agree more. Well, as always, thanks for joining us on the Runway to Success. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.